It's day two. What you're going to do? We are live. The June jump off Kung Fu Mac Attack. I'm your host, Demetrius Angelo from the Urban Action Showcase. And as promised, we're going to continue our Martial Artists for Solidarity series. We have in the house the cast, directors, and producers of the hit action comedy that you can see right now, Made in Chinatown. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you first to our moderator from Kung Fu Drive-In Theater. You guys know him. Jeff Vita's in the house, ladies and gentlemen. Come on, somebody.
Thank you, Demetrius. So good to be
We've
here.
got the executive producer and the writer of Made in Chinatown, Mr. Mark Hot Links Wiley, ladies and gentlemen. All right. And Mr. Lawrence himself, Emmanuel Black Belt Brown in the house, y'all. Of course, we can't forget the man at the helm, the director himself, Agent Johnson #2, Mr. Robert Bobby Samuels, ladies and gentlemen. And don't forget, with wisdom, you must get knowledge. All right? Knowledge is in the house, Mr. Jeff Lee. Give it up. And of course, representing Little Italy. For the Italians, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Rocco Stefano De Free. Come on, y'all. Give it up, give it up, give it up. Now, we can't forget Mr. Chow. Mr. Chow's in the house, y'all, Fenton Lee. We may have a few other surprises joining us later, but I'm going to hand the reins over to the man with the plan, Mr. Jeff Vita of the Kung Fu Drive-In Podcast. Jeff, how you doing today?
Doing well, Demetrius. Thank you so much for bringing me on. Guys, so good to have you back again. Always a pleasure to talk to you.
All right, sir. I'm going to give you the show. It's yours from here on out.
Thank you, Demetrius. Thank you. Made in Chinatown, guys. Congratulations on the success of the film so far. Fresh off of Made in Chinatown Day in New York City. Must be excited. Hey, Xing Ka just joined us. Xing, how are you, sir?
What's up?
Excellent, excellent. It's good to have the whole gang here. All right, let me start things off then. Again, congratulations on the success of the film so far. Mark, as the writer, executive producer, I'll ask you first, how's the film being received out there?
Yeah, it's just doing great. You know, since it came out May 11, so we're only like 5 weeks, and we've gotten already 32 press reports on the film. And for a little indie film, that's terrific. A whole bunch of live streaming. All the channels are loving it, and Amazon and Hulu, they're all loving it. Not Hulu, sorry, Vudu. And last weekend, we had this big Made in Chinatown Day in Manhattan, Chinatown, where the entire Chinese communities came together and had a parade for the film and lion dance, and everyone was there. It's just terrific. I couldn't be asking for more love right now.
That's awesome. Bobby, let me ask you then, talking about that Made in Chinatown Day, what is the reception from the Chinese community on the film?
It's been overwhelming, actually. I'm so happy and pleased that they've received the film so well. They appreciate it. I appreciate the response. Last week was an amazing day on two notes, for the film itself, as well as me getting an opportunity to see the cast members again. That brought joy to my heart, and it was just a day of unity. So yeah, I'm just enamored.
Xing Ka, since you just joined us, what did you see in terms of reception from the community at that Made in Chinatown Day?
Reception, I guess it might be the first time ever that Chinatown had a day for a film about that was made in Chinatown. I don't think they ever had a Year of the Dragon Day in Chinatown, or I mean, they had a big. They I don't think they ever did. Right, Jeff? So that was a big day for me in Chinatown to have Chinatown to support us with the Chinese benefit the CPA community. Um, what Manny did mention that one in 2004 when we produced a play, kung fu play, we had a 20 days 20 run in off Broadway on 57th Street, and then they heard about our play about kung fu, and Tech Wa was in it, like 20 cast members. Every show we invited a different kung fu school to perform before the show. So one of the press came to see it, and they said, "Why don't you go bring the show to Chinatown, where a lot of elder people and teenagers can come to Uptown to see a play?" And we had like multi-racial cast playing monks, kung fu monks. So they invited us to their theater that holds 500 seats in the lower level of the Ma Street Beijing Theater, and we packed the place. I remember back then, everyone came from in Chinatown to see it. So that was the biggest moment, like in my lifetime as a producer, to be. We had a press conference too, and Seafood Taiwan was there too, and it was written up about us, all of the newspapers. But this is by far is the biggest one uh, in my lifetime in Chinatown history that they dedicated a day for a film.
It definitely looked like a great time. Let me move over to the resident Italian here, Rocco Stefano DeFrey. Welcome. Tell us a little bit
Thank
about
you.
your character, and then I'll follow up on that. But tell us a little bit about your character in the film first.
Well, Rocco plays the boyfriend of the prettiest girl in the movie, and Mark knew how to cast right away. Thank God. Thank you so much for that. I do lose the girl to a younger kind of up and coming kid. But it was nice to have her while it lasted. I just want to say a couple things about this script. Also, I think in this time of wanting to belong, it's such an accessible movie. Whether you're Italian, whether you're Black, whether you're Asian, whatever your background is. I mean, the story is a universal story, right? Of wanting to belong, and I think that was the first sort of impressions that I got from the script, and I loved it. And I loved Mark, and I knew Shane for many years, and just love working with Bobby and the entire cast. So it's always felt like a family, and you can see it by the people that want to be there. So I think people have had that reception towards the film as a whole.
Definitely, and stand by because I do want to follow up. But let me move to Emmanuel. Emmanuel, same thing, sir. Tell me about your character because he's such a cool and interesting character. Give me a little bit about Lawrence.
Well, my character, I think, represents an interesting dichotomy between being between masculinity or femininity, I guess, in that sense, and toughness, which is generally seen as a masculine thing. So I think my character represents two seemingly opposing things that seem to flow together naturally, which to me is like yin and yang, my earring. So yeah, I think that's one of the things that my character brings to the script, and it was obviously all written in the script by Mark and all that stuff. So yeah, it was a very interesting character, and I'd never seen a character like that before, and I really wanted to have the opportunity to tackle it and see if I could actually make it funny. But it's a very interesting character.
Very well done. Very well portrayed by you as well. Let me move to Fenton Lee. Fenton, how about you with your character?
Oh, hey everybody! Yeah, well, I played the lead's father, his bombastic, fresh off the boat, new immigrant father, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to play those characters because they, it's a hard life as all new recent immigrants You have to find a way to make a living, and you have to find a way to find comedy to survive all that toughness, that difficulty of being in a new land, and having to acquire a whole new set of cultural values. So it's a lot of fun, and Mark and his amazing script gave us the freedom and to really explore that and push boundaries and see where these characters go. So it was wonderful working with this cast and crew.
Very cool. And then Jeff Lee, somewhat mystical character there, a little bit. Tell me about Knowledge.
Okay. Can you hear me? Can you hear me all right? Hello?
Loud and clear.
Oh, okay. First of all, it's a pleasure to be here with my friends and colleagues from Made in Chinatown. Honored to see you guys again and to share this. It's a comedic character who is basically a homeless wise man, kind of mysterious. He works in the subconscious, and he is basically, along with wisdom, representing or reminding the main character's lead what he is really about. And it was fun because I had really incredible. You can see in the background over here the type of makeup that was done and the production value at the for what went on. It was amazing, and it was challenging. And every time I see the movie, this is the kind of movie you can see multiple times, and every time you'll see it, you'll get something out of it. You get a new joke. You'll enjoy some part of the writing you didn't get before, some cultural aspect. That's what I'm digging about this whole movie as it's released, and I'm so happy that people have a chance now to enjoy it.
Excellent. And Stefano touched on this a little bit. So, Mark, I'm going to ask you to address this. You play with some stereotypes in the film, never in a mean way. It's all done with a great touch of humor. How did you handle that potentially touchy area, given what's going on currently in the news?
Well, what's going on currently in the news is, 2.5 years after we filmed, right? So we didn't have today's news in our mind, certainly not when I was writing it, not when Bobby was shooting it and directing us in the film. But when I wrote it, interestingly, every character in the film is actually an expression of me, right? Vinny's father, Vinny Chow, Lawrence, Ming, Wisdom, they're all part of slices of how I've seen myself over time in some way, right? But when I wrote it, I wanted to make sure that we were being funny and fun by poking fun at the stereotype, right? Not just stereotyping. We have to deflate those balloons because they're just ridiculous. So I said, how do you poke a stereotype at a wise guy with a gun? Well, you take the gun away and you make them, fight with salami, right? You take the drugs away and you make them fight over, red pepper flakes and oregano. And you make the Chinese kid dress like an Italian and trying to get a girl, and you make the gay guy, the gay Shakespearean actor, the baddest kung fu guy in the whole movie, right? And if you don't mind, I'd like to read a few sentences. Raymond J. Barry, who couldn't be here with us today, he played Inspector O'Grady. He sent me a nice letter, and I just want to read this about the characters. He said, this is from Raymond. He said, "My favorite character in the center of the film is the gay black martial artist. The world of the film is overbearingly macho, introducing an overtly gay man who is also a formidable fighter and dangerous martial artist is a brilliant touch that defies the normal question of what is a man. What is a manly man and what is a sensitive man? Is a real man somewhat effeminate? Within the confines of the film's macho world, the gay character is a touch brilliant. I loved it. No holds barred gay behavior in the middle of so many macho men who were becoming a bit of a bore until the gay guy shows up with his high-pitched vocal expression, his formidable fighting skills to match his feminine side. That character added humor and intelligence to the experience of watching the film, not to mention tolerance and diversity." And for sure, most of the people who see the film, they think that Manny Brown stole the show. Every scene he's in, he is spectacular. And we need to see more film of Manny. And truly, he's the only character, Lawrence, in the film who is secure in who he is. He's gay, he's black, he acts, and then he kicks ass, and then he speaks with a high-pitched voice, and he doesn't care what anyone thinks. Vinny cares what the Italian girl thinks. He cares what the mob thinks. The Italians all want to, be the best Italian. The Kung Fu guys are fighting to be the toughest. But this guy, Lawrence, in the middle, Manny Brown, is just like, hey, be comfortable in who you are, and everything works out. And it does for the character to lead at the end because of that.
Manny, that segues directly to you. What about you? What's your take on all that?
I love it. Thank you, Raymond J. Barry. I appreciate that. And also thank you, Mark, for writing such a great character. I mean, I really didn't play anything that wasn't on the page. So, I really appreciate being given the opportunity to represent this character and to do something that, like I said, has never been done before. So, and I also agree with it. I think it is a definitely an interesting touch, and yeah, that pretty much sums it up. Yeah, I think it was a very good idea to put that character in the film, because it just created such a different dynamic amongst, I think, everybody who was in the scenes with me, I think.
Yeah. Stefano, you had some thoughts on it. You wanna elaborate?
Yeah. So I echo. Manny is unbelievable in this movie, obviously, and but when Mark talks about sort of that center of that whole, I mean, I think that everybody wants to belong to something, and I think that that's the beauty from the message that you get from the film, that you're breaking through those stereotypes, and you're following your heart. And the film is a story about following your heart. And I think that in a climate, you can even just look at the cast of characters here. Our director's black. There's a whole host of colors and different backgrounds to all of us here. So I think that comes through from the team that also put this piece of art together. And I think that, it's a great lesson for the world and for people, for the audience, because anybody can watch this and relate to this and see themselves in this film.
Yeah, Fenton and Jeff Lee, as Asian characters, Fenton as the fresh off the boat dad, and Jeff Lee as the wise man. Again, some stereotypes there could have been played very touchily, had to be handled very sensitively. What was your approach to those characters? Fenton, let me start with you.
Myself. There you go. You can hear me now. Keeping it as real as it can be, and that is to Mark and to Bobby's kudos, man. It's like they kept it real. Their home looks pretty typical. I mean, and the way we were allowed to behave and address it was real, and that's how you cut through the stereotypes, by acknowledging the stereotype, and you go beyond it, and you break that stereotype, and you expand, the container that people want to have, so that they can go about their lives and not think about what people really go through. So with Vincent's dad, is he really thinks that he's a macho guy. And that's also that kind of stereotype is also within these kind of characters, to be fresh off the boat. I mean, like coming out, to a completely different land and have language barrier, cultural barriers, right? You want to hold on to what you have so that you can move ahead with vigor, with determination, and trying to meet success when it happens. So there is that sort of machismo, right? But it's in a different form, and we see that, and because it comes out from that location of need, to succeed, it's a common thing. And even though it's done in a way that is more culturally Chinese, if you were to look beyond that, you go, yeah, I kind of see other ethnic grouping that would do that. I may even be able to see Middle American dads doing something like that. And that's when we have success, in the sense that we're able to bridge across the chasm and make that connection. And it's not about the ethnicity that divides us; it's about the commonality that the American society affords all of us to achieve. And we see these different strands. So yeah, to me that makes it fun. And again, is kudos to Bobby, kudos to Mark for allowing these realities to kind of poke through, so that we actually can, all of us, see ourselves, a little bit of ourselves reflected through these characters.
Yeah.
And we go, you know what? Things are a lot more interesting than we allow our stereotypes to contain us.
Good points. Good points. Jeff, what about you?
Because this is comedy, we had a lot of license, and as an actor, if I've something I've learned is that if you're grounded in the role, whatever message comes out, it will be universal. It won't be a negative stereotype. It won't be a projection of what people conceive. The challenge was to make the character, and if you saw our audition, it was kind of really over the top. And that's where I started to learn, hey, this is corny, really corny stuff, but if we do it right and and everybody, is strong and grounded in their characters, it works, and it does not have the effect of politicizing it. It just becomes art, and so then therefore it has a more universal message.
Nice.
I hope that answers.
Excellent, excellent. Bobby and Shing, let me direct this to you guys. A wonderfully diverse cast, as evidenced by everybody here, reflecting the area of the film. What was the casting process like? And were there any big surprises or major difficulties during that stage? Shing, let me start with you.
Casting surprises. Well, I was surprised that I end up playing Wisdom when at first I didn't want to play it. I want to offer to other actors, to give it a shot first. But I got two actors I approached, turned it down. So then we had open up casting for it. So, and then I also told Mark, like, look, I'll give it a whack at it. I'll get a wig and mustache and beard and rehearse with Jeff, and we have fun doing it. And it's about actors going in, letting themselves go and be naked and just don't care what happens, and just play the character. So, and in terms of other actors, I think we cast actors pretty well this around the cast, that pretty much everyone brought themselves into the characters, and it wasn't that hard to cast the roles. So, and we have fun doing it, right, Bobby?
That's right, my brother. It was all hands on deck for the casting process. I want to, listening to everybody speak and everything, I tend to kind of keep re-examining the story and why it works so well. I mean, for me, I'm sort of like Vinny to a degree, where, I left America and went to Asia to pursue a career in action films. I was the fish out of water. Actually thought I was Asian for a minute there, but just it gave me another area in which to draw upon when directing this film, and just from Vinny's perspective and understanding about who you are, what you want to be, ultimately understanding, that the wisdom and knowledge always was within him all along. Working with Manny was just a true gem. I never directed a character like that. And again, the goal for me, most people would have thought that, you know, 30 years in Hong Kong, I mean, in the Hong Kong film business, just straight martial arts. But I wanted to prove and take myself out of my comfort zone and do a film that was story and character driven. And this particular story that Mark created allowed me to do that. Again, there were a ton of stereotypes in it, but the key here was not to, how can I say it? Not to play into the stereotypes, but to do a play on stereotypes that was more digestible to the audience. And the part that surprised me most was the embrace about the Chinese community, because they don't really embrace certain films, you know, themes, and especially when you're dealing with their culture and their lifestyles. So to be embraced by them, that was extremely important to me. In addition to, you know, my first time actually understanding certain elements about the Italian culture. We had a number of Italian actors that were pretty famous. And I would go to them and ask them, you know, how would you do this? How would you say this? Just to make sure that I kept that realism about how they were to be presented as well. And of course, I played Agent Johnson. You know, that was my little shameless plug, you know, my Alfred Hitchcock moment. But working with all the actors, I was just elated. So yeah, it was a great experience.
Well, Bobby, as the man at the helm, you did have to direct all of these cast members for that personal story, but you did have to keep an eye on the martial arts because Kung Fu does play a big part of this. So when it came to cast all of that, how hard was it to juggle that with keeping that story intact?
So, you know, we had to approach the martial arts. Again, we didn't want it to be just a martial arts film. So the balance was to make sure that it was story driven, that had a healthy dose of martial arts in it. Again, I'm dealing with two legends in the action film world, Lo Mang as well as Chu Chi Ling. Both are in their 70s and they're up there in age. So for me to kind of try to have them do Donnie Yen style action or you know, just like they used to do back in the early Shaw Brothers days, it just wouldn't sit right. So what I did was I wanted to make sure that they were respected as far as their martial arts was concerned. And just to give the fans an idea, even at that age, you know, these guys are still kicking butt to a degree. Now, with some of the other action sequences, I wanted to rely heavily on Manny. Manny's action was just incredible. And I felt that I didn't really want anything outside of that as far as like the action characters to kind of upstage Manny, because again, that was the area in which we wanted to like all this testosterone around him, but yet and still he's the baddest man on the planet. And I'm glad that actually worked and translated well. Where we went crazy was at the end. We wanted to kind of do a Big Trouble in Little China type of vibe for the ending. And that's what we did, you know, and that's when James Liu called in all the bells and whistles, Shin Ka, they all called in their stunt community contacts, Hector Sorio, Orlando, they served as assistant action directors. And then we just created a huge action motif for the ending, one that I'm sure a lot of fans will enjoy. But again, this film was about heart. This film was about character. This was a motion picture that is needed at this particular time, with all the strife that's going on in America. Listen, it's not about black. It's not about white. It's about the human race. And I think that this is what I think why the success of the film so far has been embraced, because it deals with just people of different ethnicities getting along and accepting each other and understanding each other. And we threw in that little healthy love story. And I apologize, Rocco, that you didn't get the girl, but get in the car, Tina. That was a bit abrasive. So, you know, you learn from your mistakes.
It's the next girl, the next one. I'll be. Won't try to get in the car next time. But it was a nice.
In the car, Tina. In the car.
I did it. It was a Porsche, so I'm just gonna say that. I'm just gonna leave it there, right there.
One other thing I like to say, and I don't want to take up too much time. Jeff Lee and Shin Ka, they showed up to the audition in character. We auditioned a lot of people, but the minute they came in character, like there was really no need to go any further with anything. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they were spot on. And I appreciate, you know, the help that Shin gave me producing the film. He wore many, many hats. You know, he helped with the casting, he helped with directing, he helped with producing, as well as playing 2 different roles. So my hats go off to Shinkai. I'm very appreciative of him, and Jeff Lee. I consider him the Chinese James Dean. It was just a pleasure. Fenton, there was no one else that could play the dad of Vinny but Fenton. When he came in, he has these expressive qualities about his face that really emphasize in his acting. And Rocco, amazing. He came in, and I knew that there was no one else for that particular role. A little food for thought. This is before the actual process began. I was actually cast to play Lawrence, but it was just I couldn't get into the character the way it should have been. And then Mark sent me Manny's audition tapes, and then I was like, well, okay, that's God speaking, because like he was perfect for the role. You know, there was really no need to go any further with it. So hats off to all of you. I really appreciate the yeoman's job you guys did for me on this film. This is my first big directorial debut, and I'm just so appreciative. Thank you.
Wonderful job, Bobby. And you know that it's such a well done film, and hats off to all of you for doing that. But now that I'm all warm and fuzzy here, after that, Manny, why don't you talk to me about the camaraderie between the cast members on the set, because it sounds like you guys really came together to really bring this over the finish line. So talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, I primarily worked with Jay and Tim. Most of my scenes are with them. So we hung out a little bit. In fact, when we were shooting the scene in the cafe, Tim and I were just like, well, we need to say something until Jay actually gets to the table. So we just started improvising and having fun and saying whatever crazy stuff came out of our heads, which was a lot of fun. And we would hang out around the set and, talk and just get to know each other. And I think that helped a lot to build the chemistry between us, because chemistry is very important. And I didn't get to meet them until, I got to meet Jay before because we had fight rehearsals. So I got to know him a little bit, but I didn't get to meet Tim until it was time to shoot. But fortunately, Tim is also a very good actor. He's very experienced, and he's such a fun guy to be around. So yeah, I think that helped a lot. And when it came to shooting that big fight at the end, everybody was just very cooperative. There were no egos, no attitude. Everybody's like, what do you need me to do? And then they just got up and did it. You need me to get thrown through that wall? Okay, let's do it. Set it up. You know what I mean? Everybody was just very interested in getting the film made and doing it and making it as good as possible. So I think that really helped a lot. I wish I'd gotten to spend more time on set with a lot of the other actors. I think I would have been able to speak to the camaraderie as far as they're concerned. But yeah, I think everybody just brought the right attitude, and that really helped a lot.
That's awesome. Stefano, what about you? What are your observations on that?
Well, I've become friends, like when I see Manny in the city or through the subway, I get to, we give each other hugs. When I see him in Central Park, and so now we're friends, right? So you do a movie together, and then you're friends, and then you think about casting them in something else. Same thing with Tim. I cast Tim in another film as a scene, another feature, and so there's a camaraderie that built on that from that set. I think that, to spotlight what Manny was saying is that, the Mark and Bobby and everybody at the helm and Shing, they all created an environment, and then you lead from that. If there's no ego from the top people, then because it's such a big cast, then you learn. You don't have any ego, and you guys are all friends together. And so, I've known Shing for I don't know how many years, maybe 7-8 years, and a long time. And then, all these, Jeff, they all become friends. Mark sends me dirty text messages, and when his wife doesn't know. So, you're building a friendship with everybody, and I have so much respect learning more about Bobby's work and his history, and Fenton, I'm when we see each other we take a lot of pictures when we see each other at theaters and stuff, and we you know, you're friends with them. So I think that led from the top, and that's how we all sort of fell into that place.
Fenton, natural segue to you. What about you, sir?
Yeah, well, my character never ever crossed the street. I stayed on, the Chinatown side of things, so I don't really get much interaction with, the so-called Italian side of the world. And I had never got, like I would see Manny like when he leaves, but you know what it is that when you see the work that people give, it really highlights the amount of care, the professionalism that we all want, that we value, in the final product, and you get to understand them. There's this line, I think it's from The Matrix, right? What is it? It's like Sarah says, you don't really know somebody until you fight them. Well, for actors, we don't really know somebody until we've worked with them and we've seen their work, so even though I only got to work with Jay and my nice little family with my kids, oh man, I mean, I really would love to work with everybody again on different projects, because everyone here is stellar, true professionals, and that's everything that I need to know as an actor and as a human being to value what we have accomplished here. So, Rocco, Stefano, I want to meet you somewhere in the subway, in a gym. I'm gonna find my way there. We're gonna hang out. We're gonna hang out. It's gonna happen.
We live in the same city. I'm gonna be there with Manny, and we're both gonna show up. We're gonna be kicking ass together.
Jeff Lee, what about you?
Coming into the film, I was already good friends with Shing, and so I trusted him pulling me in, and so I already knew people, had worked with people like Celia, worked with Shing on a film and an award-winning short. So there was a certain Ginny Louie, producer. There was a certain amount of people I already was familiar with. Fenton, Karen Lee plays Miss Chow. Gregory Lee, I also know him. I auditioned with the guy lots of times. And Patricia Chu, I've known for a bunch of years. So I already had a rapport with a lot of these people. I really enjoyed mingling at the shows, at the premiere, in Newark, and even online. And when Made in Chinatown was featured in Chinatown last week, I live in Chinatown, and I was floored at how these like old school associations, like really like the really homegrown people were digging the film, and that's what I'm really much appreciative of. Anyway, getting back to the social, it was the meeting at festivals, mingling then, and dinners. That was the best as far as mingling with the other actors and enjoying them. That's when I got to meet the soprano actors. Cheers.
That's cool. Mark, an independent film, not always easy to get eyes on it, but it's streaming now on digital. That link popped up there. So madeinchinatown.com madeinchinatownmovie.com/watch. So everybody go get your streaming shoes on and take care of that. But what are the next steps then for the film to get even more exposure?
Okay, first, I would just like to speak back to what you were just talking about for just a quick minute, because I want to give first a big shout of gratitude to Shing. Shing was invaluable in helping get casting director, reach out to actors, helping with all kinds of things, reading the script 10 times before, we even had the first shooting script. Just unbelievable on the set and support of the film before pre-production. And then, of course, my brother Bobby, he and I talked about the script before we went into pre-production also. And then during production, we talked all the time about the script. So I knew whatever he was doing that day, we were already on the same page, you know, and he brought that. So there's a camaraderie of brotherhood already there prior to the work getting done. And, you know, I had sent the script before we started casting to Shing. I mean, aside from Shing and Bobby, also to Jeff Lee, and getting his feedback was tremendous. So, and then just everybody on the show, it's just like a family, you know, and like a whole new family opens up, and I just love it, and I'm grateful. What's next? We have so many big things. So we had the Made in Chinatown Day last weekend. Today here we're on the Urban Action Showcase podcast with Jeff Vita, and we have so many other promotional things coming up. Right now we're on 30 streaming channels. On August 11, which is our 90-day window, we're expanding out into the what they call the subscriber channels. So Amazon Prime. Right now on Amazon, you have to rent it. And August 11, it goes to Prime, to and several other streaming services that are subscription based. So it's like almost 1 million or 2 million more people will have access to the show that don't have access to it now. And then the international sales begin after that point. And then there's another one, I see August, November 11. After the next 90 days, it goes out to another 30 or so cable and streaming platforms. So that'll be the end of the North American expansion, but all those will still stay live, but it's expanding in 3 different levels, plus the international expanding. It is available in DVD now. You can see that in our watch link, madeinChinatownmovie.com. And the press is unbelievable. The feedback from the viewers is unbelievable. The amount of cast who, even though they're tired and fatigued and tired of talking, listening to me beg them to come onto these things, don't make me beg. They just say, yeah, we'll do it. Everybody's just loving to promote, and I love it. I love them all. We love you too. Thank you.
That's amazing. Bobby, to you then, again, the man at the helm of the film, your first big directorial debut. You got a little emotional there talking about it. What were some of the tougher aspects of the film? Amidst all of the good things that came out of it, what were some of the tougher aspects?
The heat. We filmed in over 100-degree weather pretty much every day to keep the actors cool down. The location, I mean, it was brutal, but they all rose to the occasion. Again, we had logistical issues as with any film, but we were all able to kind of digest it together, pull through it together. Again, you know, I'm one person that happens to be the director. I shared those duties with my brother, James Liu, who couldn't be with us today, but, you know, he gets just as much credit for this film as I do. I love him dearly, and I learned a lot from him on here. But just the heat was it was hard. It was hard, but they pulled through it. And again, you know, outside of that, you know, put it to you this way: the hardest thing was waking up every morning. Once we woke up, everything else was easy, you know, because every day ain't promised to you. So, but Mark made sure that, you know, he was the kind of executive producer who allowed me the freedom to kind of, you know, all right, it's written one way, can I roll with it this way and see how it works? And he was open to that, you know. Tony Darrow, he made some modifications to some quick dialogue changes, again, because they're funny lines. And I mean, I'm not going to be married to something where I realize something may work a little better. Hence the point, there was one scene where Lo Mang and Raymond J. Barry were acting in Lo Mang's lair, and Lo Mang called him Dracula. And Tony Darrow wrote that line. I just thought that was funny as hell. I mean, I was cracking up when I actually heard that. And just, you know, all of the actors, the camaraderie between the 3 main characters, Tim, Manny, and Jay, that was organic. That was natural. Those guys, they kind of bonded together, and that's what I wanted, you know, for them to bond. That way we could get the best performance out of them. Shinkai and Jeff, that wasn't a concern because they were yin and yang from audition until, so that wasn't a problem. What was interesting was how well actually Jeff Lee was supposed to play 3 different roles. Because of time frame, we had to cut it down to 90 minutes. But when he went into his other character, it was like he was totally opposite the vibe as Wisdom and Knowledge. Like everybody rose to the occasion. They were playing multiple roles, and that's not easily digestible sometimes for an audience. They'd be like, "Hey, wait a second, that's the same guy from what you call?" And sometimes, if it's not done well, it can seem cheesy. It could seem how can I say it? Like you're using gimmicks instead of real filmic techniques. But we managed to kind of keep that synergy and the organic process with how that played. So again, I'm just so happy. Shout out to my partner Johnson and Johnson, which I thought was just totally hilarious. Even to the point where we were in the interrogation room, and I kept messing up Vinny's name, calling him Ching, Chow, Chin. It wasn't disrespectful. It was just a play on stereotypes, and it worked. It worked. Manny's comedic delivery during those lines were like spot on. And I mean, no matter who it is, be it the Italian community, Asian community, African American community, all groups love Manny. That's the takeaway that I always hear was Manny stole the show. And to me, having a black male gay character be the baddest kung fu man on the planet, that was just like, it was bravo to me. Most people thought that I was going to attack this film simply from a kung fu perspective. And, I didn't want to do that. I reached deep down and I found, my filmic sensibilities about me, and I turned it into a motion picture that it's a family film where everyone can come enjoy. There's no cursing. There's no killing. Again, it's an enjoyable film. And like I say, right now, the way the world is, we need to laugh, because CNN is we need to laugh. So thank you.
Plenty of laughs to go around in this film. Speaking of which, I spoke to Vinny Pastore on the show, and he seems to think that there's already a sequel in the works that revolves around cheesesteaks. Fact or fiction? Mark, talk to me.
While we were shooting, a lot of the guys, especially the Tony Darrow and Vincent Pastore and me and Bobby, we're always there. It was always, what's the next one going to be about? This is hilarious. Like, the fish out of water, the Chinese guy joins the mob. And we a couple of stories came up during that time that we were building on. One was Made in Chinatown 2, the Philly cheesesteak wars, where Vinny's child, or maybe Vinny and May, they end up opening up like a little street cart, like a food truck, and they want to sell cheesesteaks and Italian sausage and pepper sandwiches in Philadelphia, but the South Philly Italians are like, no way, Pat's and Jim's and Gino's, and they're like, you can't break into our business, especially you're Chinese. So they've got to then go and break the guys out of prison, the wise guys, and have them front them for their for their food trucks. And then all of a sudden, all this Chinese food starts streaming into the Italian food truck. It's sweet and sour cheesesteak and meatballs with hoisin sauce and all that. So that was one idea. The other idea was that May and Vinny end up having a child, and the child gets kidnapped by a Thai or Vietnamese gang somewhere, and they take him for ransom in Thailand, say. And Vinny's got to go to the governor of New York and ask for, to get Vinny Pastore and Tony Darrow and Raymond Barry out of jail for, 48 hours to go help him rescue, fight the mob in Thailand and rescue the kid. So that's another thing that went around. So we're throwing around the ideas, and we'd love to do it. And I know everyone in the cast wants to come back. So the big thing is we need people to watch the film. Importantly, we need people to go on IMDb and Amazon and rate the film and give it a nice review. A lot of haters out there. So we need the review balances to be good. And we need them to rent the film now and to stream it later and to get the DVD. And if the sales are up enough and there's enough love from the community, we'll definitely make another one.
Excellent. So all of the fans out there, your job is clear. get out there, watch the movie, rent it, write reviews, and help this film keep moving along so that we get to those cheesesteak wars. The time has gone so quickly. We have to wrap it up now, but I wanted to say thank you to all of you for making such a wonderful film. Funny, heart-filled, great action. You guys all did a wonderful job. And if there is a sequel, I hope you all come back. Thank you guys so much for talking with me today. And I'm going to throw it back to Demetrius.
Say something. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you so much. You've been a gracious host throughout this entire process. You've supported the film. You, Demetrius, Angelo. I mean, we couldn't have done this without you. Demetrius, I've been with you since Urban Action started, and I will never leave you. Jeff, you and I bonded as well. Thank you so much. Thank you all. I appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Absolutely.
Love you, Rocco.
Made in
Love you,
Chinatown.
Manny.
Love you, Bobby.
Coming up next at 3 o'clock, we got Warrior Island. Okay, guys, it's premiering tonight at 8 p.m. Our feature at 3 o'clock coming up today. Check urbanactionshowcase.com. And then we have a 9 o'clock feature as well, The Protector with Tony Jaa. And then 5 o'clock, we got the Black Dragon himself, Ron Van Cleef, in the house, ladies and gentlemen. And then at 9 p.m., Frida, the Cheetah Gibbs, following our Women Warriors Who Rock series. So we'll see you in about 45 minutes. Everybody be safe. And most of all, keep on kicking.
Love you, Shing. Love you, Jeff.